hip hop is on the world stage.
Mm-hmm.
This is the year after the 50th anniversary of hip hop. You have a PhD in breakdancing. How you secured that, I need to that needs to be scrutinized after what I just saw. But for that to all exist, and for you as a white person on the opposite end of the planet from where breakdancing and hip hop was invented, to come onto the Olympic world stage and literally make a mockery of the genre, the culture, of the dance, that was disgraceful. Welcome back, people. This is Soundbites, the part of the Album Mode podcast where we're talking about the music, the culture, the internet, and how those three things intertwine to create the music culture that we have today. My name is DeMar Grant, aka King Grant, aka The Bunny, aka The Munch. And I'm here with my esteemed co-host, co-creator, Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka The Godfather, aka Mr. Smiley. Adriel, we're back, and so is Drake.
Yep.
All of a sudden, Drake coming out of nowhere with the Finsta, the website, dropping 100 gigs. 100 gigs of Drakeness. And when it came out, you could just download all of the files. He was allowing anybody, there was a big white button that said download, and you could just hit download on every single file. He's back with 100 gigs, 3 songs. How do you feel about the 100 gigs drop?
I'm torn. I love it because I think that this is something that Drake fans have always wanted, to see how some of these classic songs were made, see the behind the scenes. Drake is someone who we don't get as much of this BTS footage.
Not anymore.
Yeah, in the Blogspot era, Drake.
Yeah, all the time.
That was a thing that was happening a lot. And I think it's honestly part of why he became so popular. But as he became a bigger artist, way less of that. And basically the only behind the scenes we get is him on his Instagram.
Facts.
If we see it on his story or somehow someone else shares it, that's all we get in terms of behind the scenes. So I liked it from giving all this footage and all this new music to his fans. But I think where we are with Drake now is we're in between what we feel like Drake should do and what Drake feels like what Drake should do.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I think that is the part of this that we can't even look at it objectively, because everyone and their mom is saying Drake should go away, he shouldn't be around. People are really criticizing this move for him. When I get the context has changed since the battle, after a loss. But I think that if you look at this in a vacuum, this is good. Getting all this footage, seeing how these songs were made. We'll talk about it later, but some songs that we thought were about something else, getting the real story behind them. So I think this is good, but I'm going to start with my theory behind this.
Okay.
And I want everyone to walk with me, okay? Put on your tinfoil hat. Walk with me here.
I can't wear hats. Sorry.
Here's what I think happened. So I think that another artist was going to do something like this. I'm not going to say who I think it is. I'm going to let the comments decide. I don't want to influence anyone. But my theory is that another very prominent artist was going to do something similar. Maybe not 100 gigs. Maybe not the EP. But they were going to drop a ton of footage for an upcoming release.
Okay.
And I think what Drake did was get ahead of that. I think that Drake realized that if this other artist did it first, it was like Drake is copying them.
Okay.
And, people saw that this Finsta came around basically around the time the battle happened. It hasn't been around that long. But I think that Drake doesn't want to be seen as a copycat. So I think that's what made this drop come when it did. And I think that the reason why we got this EP by Drake is because of the label.
Yeah, you think so?
I don't think that Drake would have dropped these on streaming if not for the label. I think that the label probably had some issues with Drake dropping all of this content for free.
Yeah, because he has a licensing agreement with UMG.
Lifetime licensing agreement.
Yeah, so they probably what the fuck? You're releasing music not on DSPs, not through us. It was just existing on the internet.
And I think
downloadable.
And I think the footage as well, because Drake is in that class where you do a documentary in theaters and everyone goes and see it. Katy Perry's done it, Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Justin Bieber. Drake is in that group.
Yeah.
So the Drake in theater only documentary was coming at some point. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of this footage would have been a part of that. And so I think that was a huge problem for the label of like, we're gonna pack this and sell this. We just lost $100 million because you decided to give us all this footage for free.
Mhm.
So that's my theory on this. I'm sure Drake will at some point either confirm or deny secretly in a record that never comes out. But all in all, I like that he did this. I know it's not the move everyone wants him to do, but I like that he did this.
Yeah, I think that it was a fun time. I think getting to see all of this behind the scenes stuff of Drake is really interesting. Also, I didn't realize he records so much of his happenings of his life in the studio. Like everything's like recorded, bro. Because it goes all the way back to like Views.
Yeah,
That shit that he was
before Views. There's stuff from Take Care.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy how much of his. Maybe I'm just thinking of my life and how much I do. I don't record every living moment of when I write, or well, we record every time we podcast. So
yeah,
but for him to have a camera on like almost all the time when you're recording, back to Take Care era, that's over 10 years ago.
Does that really surprise you? Because that's pretty basic. I feel like like a lot of artists do that. The difference is that we're seeing it. Like a lot of artists, that's like standard. Like, you know, almost at any level, if you're in the studio or you had a video shoot, bring the camera. We're doing BTS. That's like almost standard.
But he has 10 years, over 10 years, 100 gigabytes,
and
bro.
I think that's the most surprising thing is that we're getting it all at once. Because I feel like him recording it, like for most footage that I watch, most of the footage is in the studio.
Yeah.
It's not that much footage of like him in his house or him at other places. It's like at video shoots, at concerts sometimes, and in the studio. So all of this footage is mostly work related, which I think is pretty standard. But I think the idea that we haven't seen any of this footage, and maybe that's why you're saying like, I didn't even know this here, because why haven't we seen it if it's been here this whole time? But I think like that's the part that's interesting to me, is to choose to put it out this way is so interesting, because we would have loved to hear these, you know, see these clips 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So to get them all now is so interesting. Before we talk about our favorite kind of clips from the 100 gigs, how do you feel about the records?
I think that they're solid. Like they're solid. I think that I'm trying to like think like if you're gonna find the best Drake songs now, I think those are just like in the past. And anything that he's dropping B's, B pluses, maybe an A minus, you know? And I think that this was in the B plus range. I think, what was the song? Red?
Blue, Green, Red?
Blue, Green, Red is solid. I think that Drake, if he could do his career over again, he would just be a dancehall artist. I really think.
Dancehall?
I think he would just want to be an Afrobeats dancehall artist.
I was going to say, maybe Afro. Drake.
Yeah.
Drake has like 4 dancehall songs. They're good.
I know, but
he can't do dancehall by himself.
But he's trying to do that. He's trying to do the Jamaican accent like all the time. Like I feel like you can escape the accent, bro. Like you can try. I wonder what this song would sound like if it was just his regular voice, regular Drake.
That's so, you know what's
like
funny?
I think it's a good track, but I'm like, it's like a B.
No, it's a decent song.
Yeah.
2 things. I don't have a problem with the accent, but maybe it's because I grew up in Scarborough. Like people talk with the accent. Like
yeah,
I know like Southeast Asian people who talk with the accent.
Right.
So it's almost like part of the culture in a sense, which I guess hasn't been translated all these years later. But I think that you talked about him being like a B and like B plus artist. I don't think that's true. Like part 2 of For All the Dogs 3 Hours edition, there's some A's on there. And that is basically his last like full length drop before the beef. So I think that's my biggest issue is right before all this beef happened, you gave us 6 songs that to me are almost all A's or at least A minuses.
Yeah.
So we know it's still in there. We know there's something in there that can be like that. But what I really gather from this is maybe his A's are only going to be in the rap space.
Okay.
Because none of these are that kind of rap. None of these 3 songs are the shoe fits type of rap.
Right.
And so I think maybe where he's at now is I can only make an A song if I do Evil Ways type of rap. But if I do the sing song, trap rap, those are all going to be B's. Because I haven't had an A of that kind in a long time. Maybe Her Loss had a few of them. I think Her Loss is probably like the last. But I think the trap rap Drake and the like dance sing song Drake, those two haven't given us A songs in a long time, and that's most of what he does now, which is really the problem. So I think I'm not here where he's like he doesn't have an A left in him, but I think that again, Scary Hours edition of For All the Dogs, if that was what these 3 songs were, different story. If it was 3 timestamp records, different story.
Yeah.
But I think when he does this 21 Savage, Honestly Nevermind type of songs, those are good, but we're not getting A's.
Yeah, I agree. I think that on Blue Green Red, where that was one of the funnier songs that Drake ever released, because he's singing like in this such airy, like airy and beautiful way about like, this guy has a knife and I bumped his pocket and I felt it.
Like,
that
what?
shit was so fun. But it was funny in like, I think in a bad way, because I'm like, wait, there must be a more eloquent and more like, I don't know, more of a verbose way to say this than like, literally he said he had a knife and then I bumped his pocket and I felt it. Like
what?
Yeah, like we need to consider the thesaurus and maybe a coach when it comes to the lyrics, because that is not it. I think the song Housekeeping Knows with Lotto kind of ties into our review that we just did, where you can see, just Lotto and Drake have been hanging out.
Yep.
They have songs, meshing together. So there was definitely, you cannot convince me otherwise that Drake was like, you should probably do like a timestamp type of song. Or he either said that, or she obviously listens to his music and was like, let me do a Drake timestamp type of song. Right. So I think that the collab was all right. It was all right. Like, I think that the Drake, I don't know, maybe Drake's music doesn't move me as much anymore. I'm like, it's okay.
I think he's suffering from his own self of putting out too much music.
I've been saying that. How long have I been saying that?
No, you've been saying that for a long time. Yeah. And I think the truth of the matter is I didn't love For All the Dogs.
Yeah, me neither.
But there's some songs on there that stand alone are still incredible songs.
Yeah.
But I think when you put out the original 23 songs, if you put out 12 and I take all the good ones, different story. But he puts out 23 and then less than a month later puts out 6 more. Now the 6 more were great, but it's like there's not even a chance of we're not going to hear from you. He's put out 3 songs before this 3-pack.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no time for us to sit with a song and kind of let it breathe. So I think he's in a spot where his music is kind of being viewed as less than it is because he's putting out so much music. And I go back to, again, the Scary Hours edition is, I didn't know he had that in him.
Me neither.
Still, but to see that he did that recently is like, okay, the guy who was at the top of the game is still there.
Yeah.
It's up to him to tap into it. And I think this 3-pack shows that he's not tapping into it. He's doing other things.
Yeah, he's doing other
but
stuff.
I'm not going to go as far as say it's not there anymore. So I'll give him that credit. In terms of the clips that I saw,
yeah,
my favorite one was him talking about collabing with Jay-Z on Talk Up.
Okay.
Talk Up is one of my favorite songs from the two of them. Probably like my second favorite other than Pound Cake. And to me, a super underrated song. That one comes off Scorpion. Of course, other stuff were going on at that time. Maybe that song missed a couple people. But to see like what they did and the reaction that they had in terms of like waiting for Jay-Z and the kind of work ethic you see from Drake, I think that was the thing that really showed in some of these clips of like, Drake is the biggest for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think like as much as we're criticizing him of putting out too much music and it's not the same quality it was before, a clip like that and other clips reminded us of like, he's been on this run for a reason. Like he didn't fall into it. He's not a plant. Like there is stuff that goes into it. So that clip I liked just because a Jay feature holding that much weight for Drake, who has more Jay features than most, not his first time. And as well, like to have a Jay feature that's not going to be like your single at all. It's like an extreme B-side. Like how many rappers that's the case for them? Like any rapper that like if Jay-Z was on Lotto's album, we're hearing that song. That's a huge deal. You know? So that's what I thought about is like, it's a huge deal for him to still get the song, but this song is a song that a lot of people have looked over. And again, is a B-side on one of the best-selling albums of our generation.
Yeah, facts. I think that, but I think Drake is like the Jay-Z feature. He doesn't really like to make a big deal of the Jay-Z features.
He did at one point.
Because like I remember when what was it? Thank Me Later.
Yeah.
With what was it?
Light Up.
Yeah. I don't remember him making a huge deal.
Light Up was a big. It wasn't.
The song was a big deal.
It wasn't a single. Yeah. But that was when Drake was actually on Twitter. That was like that was a big deal.
Yeah. So I think that he's more low key with the Jay-Z features than other people would be. Because if somebody like I don't know, even like Logic got Jay-Z, you wouldn't hear the end of it.
Yes.
You wouldn't hear the end of it. Okay.
If Jay-Z did a song with Logic, I would not ever stop talking about that. That would be wild.
So there's that. I think for me, there's two instances or two videos. There was one where they're constructing Nothing Was the Same, and there was like this camera pan in the studio, and you can see like Drake's like goals and his album inspiration. And there is this one part where I want to do the album inspiration where you can see it's like Michael Jordan in Space Jam, like he's out on the grass and was not Porky Pig was speaking to him.
Yeah.
And then there's like a woman underneath a tree with like an apple, like gazing whimsically. And then there was one other part where there's Michael Jackson, not the
Dangerous?
Yeah, Dangerous. The Dangerous album, like the Dangerous Mask. And then there was also like Ahmad Jamal, which is like a pianist, like a jazz pianist. And you're just like, you get to see like all this like combination of like Drake's like thought process in what goes into like making an album. And first of all, he has like a vision board for his album, which I think is interesting. But I also was really interested by first of all, Michael Jackson already like making like a major appearance in his album construction. Remember, Nothing Was the Same was like 2015?
2013, yeah.
2013. That's early.
Yeah.
That's pretty early to be thinking about Michael Jackson like in that sense. Like for the way that we think of the way that Drake views himself is literally being next to Michael Jackson is kind of interesting to see like so early in his career, he's already considering this Michael Jackson status.
Yeah.
And then the Michael Jordan thing with Bugs Bunny and Porky the Pig, and the Ahmad Jamal thing was really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
Because again, Ahmad Jamal is like this major jazz pianist. I didn't think that Drake was tapped. I did not think that Drake was tapped in that type of way where he's like, oh yeah, I'm really diving into the depths of jazz. And well, you listen to the album, then you totally see like the lounge music, the jazz music influence.
And I think talking about that is like So Far Gone, the intro and the outro, huge jazz influence.
Yeah.
And what these clips reminded me of is Drake is an artiste.
Yeah.
I think he's become such a big artist that like we just don't think of him in this way as much. Like even him having a vision board for his project, like there's like if Kendrick had that wouldn't be a surprise.
Yes, exactly.
You know, when it's like it shouldn't be a surprise for Drake to have it because Drake has been an artiste from the beginning, and to kind of blend the two, you know, clearly one took over the other in terms of how we view him. But that's what this footage really brought back to me is Drake is an artiste, and we see all these examples of it. And talking about him in the Michael Jackson comparison, that's one clip that I noticed too, and I thought about, and I said, I always go back to 5 a.m. in Toronto, which came out in 2013.
Yeah.
And the song starts with him saying, most number ones ever, how long did it really take me? And I think that us looking back 11 years, we kind of view that as like less big as he was because he somehow became a bigger artist, even at that time. But he was the biggest rapper in the world at that time. So to see him viewing himself as like the Michael Jackson is interesting because that was when Drake had the most number ones in rap. Like he had broken every record on the rap charts. And after that, that's when Views came around. If you're reading this, it's too late. Where he started getting these number ones on the pop charts and the Billboard charts. And so you having the Michael Jackson thing is like, he clearly saw that for himself in a way we didn't because he really hadn't had the same Billboard success he had afterwards before that. Of course, a lot of success, a bunch of huge records, but the Billboard success of songs like Hotline Bling and One Dance, and that came well after he had already broken every record on the rap charts.
Yeah. And then the other thing that was really interesting to me was the video of him in the studio Basically all the interesting videos are him in the studio.
Yes.
But the one where he's talking about Too Good on Views,
Yep.
where he's like, it's supposed to be about Serena, even though I'm pretty sure. I mean, you could have inferred that if you really were into.
His mom did.
Yeah, you can infer. Right, you can infer that from their relationship at the time, because there was a period in time where Drake was dating Serena Williams. They were seen together. Shout out to my mom, who was like, she was on that shit early, because Serena Williams is my mom's favorite athlete ever. So she was early on that and notified me. She's like, yo, do you know about this Drake and Serena Williams thing? I'm like, no.
Wow.
But so that was really interesting to me, just because I think like him openly, like even speaking about like who his music is about, is something that he kind of doesn't do, because he usually says like, oh, this is about, you know, a person that I met at this place, or a girl in Atlanta, a girl in Houston, stuff like that. But in his studio, obviously, it's more intimate, and it's just him and like producers and shit. He's talking about, this is about X person. This is about Y person. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, especially, first of all, his mom clocking, because he's talking to his mom in that clip.
Yeah.
And he's saying, oh, mom, this is actually about Serena. And she goes, I knew that. Like, that stood out to me, because he talks about him and his mom being close. And like, that was the sign for me that his mom and him were close. For his mom to catch that, when I don't think any of us did. I think we all thought it was about Rihanna.
Yeah.
Most of the world thought that. So for his mom to catch that, just off the lyrics alone, it's like, okay, they must be talking and close in some way where she can notice that. And then the other one is Hotline Bling, which he also said is about a girl.
Yeah.
And that was her name in his phone, which I thought was, I'm like, that is pretty good. Like, that is pretty good.
That was also funny, because he was like, if I was an artist today and I was coming with a name, I would just name myself Hotline Bling.
That's not a bad name. Not a bad name. So,
yeah, that was a good song.
Yeah, so I think, you know, I'm excited to see the more stuff. He's still dropping clips. There's still stuff happening on that Instagram page. But I think that this reminder is almost ill-timed. I want to see how this 100 gigs ages, because I think that what he just did in terms of showing us all these songs he's created, these memories, these times in the studio, there's almost no artist in history that can match this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe Kanye, but that's a maybe. And
Kanye 100 gigs like this would be insane, especially recently. Oh my God.
Insane. So I think that the reminder he gave us of like what he's accomplished, his greatness, how long he's been great for. Like, again, nothing was the same as more than 10 years ago. And I think about, I don't remember what song it was, but the song where he goes, it feels like I've been here for a decade, but got a decade to go. And he was right about that too. So to see all of that, I wonder how that will age. Will people still be enamored with it a month from now? Who knows? It's basically been a week exactly since that drop. So very excited to see how that ages. One more thing we want to see how it ages. This is very important to a lot of people. Is the Olympics. They just finished, and breakdancing was an official sport for the first time.
Yeah.
This went viral. This woman from Australia,
Raygun.
Raygun. She's a 36-year-old college professor. Her full name is Rachel Gunn. Let's call her by her government.
Dr. Rachel Gunn. She has a PhD.
Yes. Dr. Rachel Gunn.
The white woman in the PhD of hip hop and breakdance being Dr. Gunn is just like a very, very weird circumstance.
What I think about this is, first of all, she absolutely embarrassed herself and her country. But it looks bad for PhDs worldwide. Like, when you think about someone having a PhD, I think having a PhD just lost like 5 points. You know, like, usually it's something esteemed. They're a doctor. But what she just did with her PhD, I think she loses some points. But I guess my thing is, we talked a bit before we started recording about this being a huge story, how she's being investigated, how she really pulled this off. My question is, do people really care?
Do people? I think that they do, because here's the thing. A, we're talking about it on our podcast right now.
Okay.
B, this was like, think about, like, it was Olympic breakdancing, right? Something that breakdancing is literally integral to hip hop.
Yeah, one of the four corners.
One of the 4 pillars of hip hop. And a white woman from Australia, literally the opposite end of the earth, came onto the Olympic stage and had the audacity, literally, like, just think about the audacity to dance as poorly as she did, and be like, yeah, this is totally acceptable.
Just like a 4-year-old.
Like there's like a like there has to be like a mental miscalculation there where you're like, I have a PhD in breakdancing. I'm going to go to the Olympics and make a joke of the culture. Like that was just something like I just didn't fully understand. So do I think people care? I think, yeah, because there's going to get to a point of like, okay, like what the fuck is happening right now? Like, why are we allowing this, you know? And I think that there's getting to a point where I'm seeing like a petition, people talking about like seriously investigating her because she qualifies and then throws up literally one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen in my entire fucking life.
No, that was bad.
For her to become, it's so bad. Her breakdancing was so bad that people were texting me. This is real life. Real life people were texting me and were asking me, is it a bit? Was she doing a bit? I could not stop laughing when people were asking me that. That's how poor it was, okay? So her being so involved in the qualification, making it, and then being as bad as she was, when then you look at the male Australian breakdancer who was like, this guy breakdances. Yeah. And when I was watching her, I'm like, did she fill out a form? Did she lie on the application or some shit?
All of those things.
I think it's going to garner like a lot more attention because also breakdancing is no longer an event at the Olympics.
Yeah.
I will say this, that it was already planned to not be an event for the next Olympics, but she is, just because of that and what she did, she is like slowly becoming the face of the reason why. Even though she's technically not the reason why, but I would say she put the final nail in the fucking coffin of it being the reason why.
A lot of times when things happen, you know, I think of Childish Gambino's album Because of the Internet. And I was alive and aware and outside during a time before the internet. And so when things like this happen, I think of, this is an internet thing. This happened in real life.
Yeah.
But it is a story because of the internet.
I agree.
And my, I guess, gripe with this is that, is this going to be real outrage or is it going to be fake outrage? Because I think a lot of the hip hop fans are not really outraged in the way that I would see them in other scenarios. Like, for example, the outrage that people have for Post Malone being a culture vulture, much more than this.
You think so? Well, go ahead. Sorry.
To me, this is much more disrespectful.
Yes.
And much more harmful to the culture.
I agree. Significantly, actually. Way more significantly.
I don't see that same reaction. Maybe I'm on the wrong algorithm, but I see some people upset. But I think most people are thinking that this is, first of all, wrong, but more funny than anything.
Yeah.
And when this was being shared around, it was not shared with the tone of, how dare she? It's like, can you believe she got this off?
Yeah.
And there's this tweet here that I want to read, and this tweet has almost 400,000 views. And someone said, I'd like to personally thank Raygun for making millions of people worldwide think, maybe I can make the Olympics too.
This is crazy, man. But we're laughing almost at the expense of hip hop in that way.
And that's the point I'm making. That's what's happening more than anything, is laughing at the expense of hip hop. I think the outrage is from a group of people who are definitely pissed off. But I think that this is to me akin to someone, like, this is cultural appropriation. That's really what this is. Like when Trudeau's in blackface and we're all up in arms, this is akin to that to me.
Okay.
And I don't see that reaction. I think it's a lot of, this is crazy. Can you believe this?
Yeah.
Not of, you know, put her under the jail.
Yeah, I think to me, because I did watch both the men and the women's breakdancing all the way through. I spent 2 days watching all the way through. To me, when it comes to Raygun and her breakdancing, I think that what she did damaged hip hop by like a significant amount, because to really think, hip hop is on the world stage. This is the year after the 50th anniversary of hip hop. You have a PhD in breakdancing. How you secured that, I need to, like, that needs to be scrutinized after what I just saw. But for that to all exist, and for you as a white person on the opposite end of the planet from where breakdancing and hip hop was invented to come onto the Olympic world stage and literally make a mockery of the genre, the culture, of the dance, that was disgraceful. That was just genuinely a true disgrace to the culture, and like your PhD. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, for you to hold a PhD and then do that, what the fuck? Like seriously, it's just like it's the only way to describe that is like, what the fuck are you doing?
No, it is a what the fuck moment.
Yeah.
I want us to check back in on this in a month and see how much of a story this is, because that's why I asked, do we really care? Is so many things on the internet is like, when it's happening, it's a story and it feels like everyone cares. Just by the sheer number of people who are talking about it, we substitute that for people caring. And I go back to academics being charged with sexual assault how many months ago? We haven't heard that since.
That's true.
We haven't heard from that since. And at the time I said, do people really care about this? And what I'm seeing from the world is telling me that we don't care when those things happen. I feel like this is going to be one of those situations, to be honest with you, because I think that even allowing her to keep competing, even though she didn't get a score any of the times, she didn't get any points, even allowing her to compete to me is disrespectful in the first place. And I think that the way that this went viral is how people are feeling about this, because I think that this went viral not in the way we're saying. This wasn't went viral out of outrage. This went viral for being funny. And so it's like, you think this is funny? And that's how everyone's behaving. So for me to think that people care when this went viral for being funny, when we all listen to hip hop, we all know what breakdancing is, we all know how important this is to the culture, that wasn't what this was about. So I think we're kind of like correcting after the fact.
I do agree.
This was funny.
No, it was like a funny haha, but then you're like,
And I think that's where we're at, where I'm like, that's why I don't think people really care. I think it's, we all laughed, and then you were like, wait, maybe I shouldn't be laughing. And that to me isn't real care. That is more, I don't want to be perceived as someone who's insensitive to hip hop or not of the culture. And I think that to me is weighing more than genuine care, but time will tell.
Time will tell. I would say this. If this happened in Canada, I would be all over that as a journalist. Like, I feel like
for sure.
It's like one of the easiest stories, because I was, from what I've read, she was part of the qualification process, right? She is a person that went to this event and threw up a goose egg, looked like she didn't even belong. And it's a white person appropriating a black art form. Like, that is probably the easiest story. So if you're an Australian listening to this, Australian journalist listening to this,
get on it.
This is the easiest story that you would make a world impact on.
And I think the last thing that I want to mention is, like, I don't know if the Olympics cares about hip hop how we do. I don't know if the world cares about hip hop that we do. So when I say, like, who cares, it's like, has the world shown they care about hip hop in this way that it's so serious to them? I haven't seen the example of that. That hasn't been made clear to me. The head of the World Dance Sport Federation said officials are looking out for her mental safety after the online criticism.
Okay, well, this is genuine. You did it yourself? Like, you did this to yourself. It's not like, I think that what I think happened leading up to, and like just like surrounding this, is like, I think there was an underestimation of like scrutiny, underestimation of like importance. I think there was an underestimation of a lot of things, and I think those things are going to surge to the forefront, because again, hip hop is one of the most popular genres of music right now.
It is the most popular genre.
Most prominent, like, everything that we think of that is like cool is associated to hip hop in some way. And part of the reason why you were even able to breakdance at the Olympics is because of how important hip hop is. Right? So there is I think there's an underestimation of like, this was important. This was a big deal. And it was also in France. Breakdancing and hip hop in France is a big deal.
Yeah. You know what? I hope that you're right. But I think there's almost a version where we're both correct, where there's almost an underestimation of how much trouble she's going to get in from her side, and then almost an overestimation of how much people are going to get her in trouble. How much people care about hip-hop who have the power to get her in trouble.
Okay. Especially in Australia.
Australia, France, Olympic Committee, like all these groups, I don't know them personally, but do they have a history of caring about hip hop, Black culture? Is that important to them? I think you're respecting a culture, and I think I guess I'm comparing to Trudeau and blackface.
Okay.
Is like this is a culture of people who celebrated the 50th year last year, and so for you to respect this whole culture of people with your whole chest,
yeah, that's
absolutely insane.
Yeah, I would say shout out to Phil Wizard, Canadian, who won the gold medal for breakdancing.
Proud of him.
Yeah, proud of him. To me, Phil Wizard winning that event just shows it's another aspect of Canada's prominence in hip hop and how impactful Canada is to hip hop, modern hip hop, and will be throughout hip hop's history just in general.
Yeah,
because Drake exists, right? Drake's influence, we're talking about on Lotto, right? Drake's influence is immense.
Didn't Phil dance to Chaos?
Sorry?
Didn't he dance to Chaos, like a Chaos song?
Oh, yeah. There was a Chaos song that was being break danced too. And Phil Wizard is a Canadian, right? Who won, right? So Canada's impact on hip hop is immense. It's undeniable. People winning gold medals for it, right? And it was also, to me, it was also interesting that it was an Asian Canadian dude that won the competition. Because there's also obviously hip hop's connection to, I believe he's Korean.
Yeah. So
hip hop's influence on Korean music, K-pop, J-pop, et cetera, et cetera. So there's been that crossover. So it was really interesting to see, like, it was like a America to Canada, but then Canada to Korea that also connects to America. This really interesting cross, but it all makes sense.
Yeah,
if you understand the history of hip hop and what it means in those regions, it actually totally makes sense. But it was just a really interesting crossover to see happening.
It was almost like a Game of Thrones origin story.
Yeah,
like coming into fruition.
Yeah,
of like look at all these influences from decades in the past coming through together here. So it was a good moment. Something good happened.
Yeah.
In breakdancing.
Also, shout out to Nika from Lithuania. She was like 16, 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna win.
Yeah, no,
I thought she got robbed. I thought she got robbed. She was busting people's asses.
Yeah. We gotta look into that too.
Yeah, we need to look.
We got a couple things to look into.
We need to look at that too, because when I was watching, again, I watched all the way through from round robins all the way to the gold medal match.
Yeah.
I'm like, shoot, I was texting people who were also watching. I thought she won easy.
Yeah, no. When I saw something on Twitter that I went and watched.
Yeah,
and I was like, she didn't win.
She didn't win. Yeah,
I was like, did I miss something? Like,
that was crazy. She got the silver medal. She lost to Ami from Japan.
Yeah,
but maybe I'm gonna be honest with you. She was a white girl from Lithuania wearing a do-rag.
She's of the culture. Like, come on.
And her name was also Nika, which was getting a little short shrift on the internet. So there might have been a little bit like, are we really going to give the award to the white woman wearing a do-rag from Lithuania?
Should have,
because she was the best.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest with you, she was the best. But it was a little. The situation was fraught. Let's just say it was a fraught situation. But she was busting people up, bro. It was crazy. She was so good. And so was Phil Wizard. Phil Wizard was doing crazy. He had that like one freeze where he was doing like
that was
action
crazy.
pros, but he was also spinning like magic. It looked like magic.
Yeah, I was like, I've never seen that before.
It looked like magic. So it was awesome. I honestly want breakdance to be back in the Olympics. I think that they staged it improperly because they were doing it during the day in broad daylight, like outside.
I don't think that's the wrong way to do it.
But when you think about breakdancing, usually either it's like on a cardboard outside, right?
Yeah.
But usually hip hop events, it's in like an enclosed space and there's like spotlights on people and shit.
Breakdancing originally definitely was in the daytime.
Yeah, that's true.
And it is an Olympic sport. I think like in terms of viewing it, like shooting a sport like that at night is like a whole separate apparatus.
It doesn't have to be at night, but I think it should be in an enclosed area where it's like, it's dance, right? So I want it to be in an enclosed area where there's like lights on it to make it look dramatic.
I get you about the adding some drama to it, but I think they did it right in terms of having it outside in the sun because that is what it originally
that's true.
is. So I think that was the most authentic part of the whole entire thing was doing it outside in the daytime.
Yeah. So I do want it to be back because I do think it is capable and worthy of being an Olympic event.
Yeah.
And you cannot tell me that dance can't be part of the Olympics because we have horse dancing, dressage. Dressage exists. Then we have synchronized swimming, which is now artistic
Mhm.
swimming. And there's also artistic gymnastics.
Last but not least, I don't know if everyone knows this, but arts were a part of the Olympics in the early 1900s. There was actually a whole arts section, and then they decided it's weird to judge arts in that way. But arts were a part of Olympics right beside athletics. So
Yeah.
this is almost more to the OG Olympic days than we realized. So yeah. I think we got something there.
And also, I'm seeing people talk about memeing about Olympic breakdancing. I haven't heard a peep about artistic swimming.
Yeah,
Not a sound. So
not our timeline.
yeah, maybe it's on a different timeline. Maybe it's not on our timeline. But I'm hearing about the breakdancing, and it was only there for one. It was only there one time, and I haven't heard shit, haven't seen shit about Olympics or artistic swimming. Okay, so I think breakdance, if it actually gets a genuine chance, and the people who are part of it actually respect it and not mocking it, it would be an amazing event. Because I want to see Nika come back, because I want to see Nika win the gold medal, bro.
I want to see breakdancing in LA.
Yeah,
like I want.
Yeah, like I don't even understand why would you do that? Like,
and
that doesn't make any sense.
This is why I'm saying, and we're talking about care. It's like the people who are not bringing breakdancing back are gonna care that you disrespected it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's so. I think that's a good place to end. I hope that everyone enjoys this episode of Soundbites.
Shout out Phil Wizard, bro. Phil Wizard, let's go.
Yeah, big shout out to Phil Wizard. Follow us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod, on Instagram at Album Mode Pod, on TikTok at Album Mode Pod, on Twitter. Let us know what your favorite Olympic sport was. It's done now. We're not getting it for another 4 years, but one of my favorite Olympics that I watched.
Yeah, it was fun. It was genuinely and I also said that to people. I'm like, this is probably one of the most fun Olympics I've watched since I was a kid.
No, for sure. And all the random sports that I was watching. When I was in Chicago, I had a few days where I didn't watch anything, and I was kind of pissed. But my favorite, I think, that I watched was either speed rock climbing.
Yeah, that was good.
That was incredible.
Fencing's good too.
Or women's skateboarding.
Yeah, they were throwing down. It was going nuts.
Yeah.
I was watching a lot of the women's events.
Same.
I don't know if it was like a time zone thing, but I felt like I was catching all the women's events.
Same. Like I didn't see the men's speed rock climbing, but the women's
I didn't see. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember seeing men's skateboarding either.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But hey, it was still sick.
We're here for it.
I was here for it. Again, Nika should have won that gold medal.
Yep.
So thank you everybody for tuning into Album Mode Soundbites, the part where we're talking about the music, the culture, and the internet, and how those three things intertwine to create the music culture that we have today. Adriel, make sure you know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.